It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the Lamar Thomas Show, featuring the greatest receiver in the history of college football. Just ask them, Lamar Thomas.
I was born in Ocala, Florida. I moved to Gainesville to go to high school. Been recruited probably since the 9th grade, illegally, I might add, by the University of Florida. I still can remember Coach Solinger, Don Solinger, coming out to our practice one day. Here it is, this guy comes out in the University of Miami jacket, and I said, I can't believe that's Miami out here. And, you know, I wanted to go up and say, hey, I'm Lamar Thomas. And actually, I did walk up to him and I said, hey, Coach, I'm Lamar Thomas. And he said, I know. And that was the start of my relationship with the University of Miami.
Patton, another good block, and Toretto lays it out. Touchdown, Miami!
You come down here, you'll be on TV every weekend, dominating. I thought about it. I said, man, where do I sign? My mom, on Saturday mornings, I would wake up and she'd be holding my hand. I thought she was the weirdest lady in the world. But she was holding my hands and she would be rubbing them and saying, one day these hands are gonna make you a lot of money. She was smart.
So now, here he is, the great one, along with co-host Gary Ferma of CaneSport.com, Lamar Thomas.
What's going on, LT?
At my second home.
Well, we welcome everybody once again to an open week edition. Well, that's not open week anymore, but last week was open week of the Lamar Thomas Show. We got Wake Forest coming to town on Saturday, and a lot to talk about. A lot more goes on during an open week than people would think, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll be visited later by Kenny Holmes. Tonight's show, as always, is presented by CaneSwear, and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on at CaneSwear. It's your last chance to go to CaneSwear this season before a football game. You can actually stop by there. LT, what are they opening at 7 a.m. on Saturday?
Are we opening at 7 a.m. on Saturday? What's going on? 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
So CaneSwear will be open at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. For those of you that want to stop by, they're 15 minutes north of Hard Rock Stadium. And you can load up on Canes gear before you go to the game. Maybe wear something new out there for what I think, LT, is going to be a massive victory over Wake Forest. I am expecting the Canes to steamroll these guys this weekend and set up a pretty tough road trip that we'll be talking a lot about next week to Syracuse, which is a very competent football team. And, they're going to be looking to spoil Miami's road to the ACC championship game there in the Carrier Dome.
One game at a time, Gary. One game at a time.
Yeah, no, I'm not jumping ahead. I'm just setting the scene. Los Espadas. one thing at a time, but let's not forget Lamar's dinner from Los Espadas. But so anyway, so there's just a lot on the plate for us to talk about tonight. We'll be visited at 8:30 by Kenny Holmes, former Cane. And then what I think we'll do tonight is, after we're done with Kenny Holmes, the last segment of the show, we're going to let you guys who are watching name the topics, and we will, address as many of them as we can in the second part of the show this evening after Kenny Holmes visited us. So, LT, let's start with this open week. All right. I got myself in trouble. You'll get a kick out of this. So I wrote a column the other day on CaneSport.
Gary.
Yeah, wait till you hear this. So I'm just sitting there writing an open week column, talking about different things. And I said at the beginning of the column, I referred to Miami being on vacation. Okay, because they weren't playing last week. I called it a vacation. I said, hey, I'm not even thinking twice about it. Well, the last thing that they were down there is on vacation. Okay, so somebody saw me refer to what they're doing on vacation, and it became like a big running joke. Like, oh yeah, we're on vacation. The coaches are on the road recruiting. They only gave the players 2 days off because they had so much to correct coming out of the Georgia Tech game. That they had practice every day, and of course, the transfer portal coming up and everything else. So they've had a lot on their plate. But needless to say, LT, no, they were not on vacation, and I caught a lot of flack for my use of words in that situation.
Well, you probably should have, Gary. And because you said that, I probably should have disassociated myself with you that week. No, I get it. I get what you're trying to say, but vacation, that was I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it in. That was Manny Diaz, baby. That was vacation time. But no, it's no vacation. I mean, these guys are, obviously there's a lot to clean up, or there has been a lot to clean up on both sides of the ball and on special teams. And they've taken full advantage of this off week. I mean, they've been practicing their butts off. Obviously, they are definitely recruiting. Mario is a stickler on that. I mean, they got a lot of guys that they're in the running for. A lot of guys they have and they're trying to keep. So that's a job in itself. It's been nothing less than what you expect of an off week. I mean, as a coach, you kind of dread it a little bit because you go back to the basics sometimes, and sometimes you do need the basics, especially when you're trying to also get young kids practice because you want to see them practice, and you're saving the older guys because of the wear and tear, but you're making sure they're mentally sharp. I guess that's the best way to put it. But you're giving those younger guys a lot of opportunity to somehow infiltrate first, second, maybe third team, and they get to see develop or developing, and they get to be seen by the coaches, because a lot of times when you're an offensive coach, you don't get to see your guys that are on scout teams. You don't get to see them much. You don't get to see if they're improving, if they're learning anything. And then, during the off week, you get to actually put eyes on them per se. So it's a good week. It really is good. Again, you're going back to the basics a lot. And sometimes you need basics because the basics is the foundation. And as we well seen, and we'll talk about later, communication. I think that's one of the things they definitely had to clean up, the communication, especially on the defensive side. The communication with everybody doing the shifts and motions and all this other stuff, and trying to figure out the best way to communicate obviously the coaches, they call the plays, but they can't be on the field, and it's up to those players to learn how to communicate effectively with each other. Assignment and alignment. These are things that you have to, for an off week, you have to be able to clear up. You want guys to make sure they know their assignments and they're aligned properly. As we well have seen, and I'm just speaking on the defensive side right now, alignment's been off, assignment's been off, especially when the shifts in motion. So on the offensive side, cleaning up some things as far as, the making sure that the run game is effective, making sure our offensive line understand that when Cam's back there running around and dancing, to make sure you don't get holding penalties and just little things like that. I mean, it's all a good week to really home in, and it's less stress. I tell you that, it's less stress. Even I found that out as a fan, because Saturday I got to watch football, and all I was doing was cheering for whoever was going to put us in the best situation. So it was less stressful for me.
All right. So during this time, and I'm not going to say it was a vacation, get myself in trouble again.
Yeah,
but there was a lot of stuff that went on. Okay. SMU and Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
I thought kind of flexed their muscle a little bit last weekend in the ACC. And Miami has no margin of error. If Miami wins out, they will play most likely SMU in Charlotte.
If they win against Virginia, right? Is it Virginia they're playing?
Well, SMU would have to lose twice. I believe they played Virginia and Cal. Okay, they would have to lose both games to be out of the championship game. Clemson is done with ACC play. They're sitting there at 7-1 in the league.
Right.
And if Miami loses one more game, they're now behind Clemson and can't get into.
They're being haters right now. I guarantee you they're going to have a part. Who do they have a game? They don't have any. Who they?
No, they're done. They're done with their ACC. They have a couple games, but they're done with their ACC schedule.
Okay.
So they finished 7-1 in the league. SMU is still undefeated in the league. Miami has one loss. Miami wins any tiebreaker with Clemson. So if Miami
and the tiebreaker.
Go ahead.
The tie is what? The Louisville game? Is that the tiebreaker?
That essentially is the tiebreaker. Yeah. It's common opponents. Yeah. So Miami wins any tiebreaker with Clemson, which is right now they're both sitting there with one loss. So if Miami wins out, Miami's in. SMU would have to lose twice to be knocked out, and then Miami would play Clemson. But most likely, if Miami wins out, it's going to be Miami and SMU. But SMU's playing pretty good football, and I thought that they flexed their muscle a little bit this past weekend and created something to think about and talk about, as we move forward. Another thing that I thought Oregon surviving a scare at Wisconsin, I thought they made a little bit of a statement, because when I watched Oregon play, I didn't see a lot of difference between Miami and Oregon. I mean, I think they're very similar teams. The difference is Miami didn't get out of Atlanta. Oregon has gotten out of jail twice here the last few weeks. Miami did not get out of Atlanta. So, that to me was a pretty big deal. And then the other thing that jumped out at me was that without playing last week, coming off the Georgia Tech loss, Cam Ward is dropping very quickly in the Heisman race. And I don't know if he could get back in LT, and we'll talk about that here too. So, a lot can happen while you're not playing. Essentially. So, let's start with open weeks. Okay. You obviously coach through open weeks and have been involved as a player and as a coach in open weeks. Are they good, bad? What are open weeks like for a football team, both from a player viewpoint and a coaching viewpoint?
Well, for a player viewpoint, like I said a little earlier, it's time to get yourself healthy in a way. If you're hurt, if you have some nicks and bruises, it's also time to work on some things that you might not be as good at. Obviously, they want to make sure that they're resting you in a way, but they're also practicing you. It's kind of hard to figure it out because, like I said, you're going to get better during the off week. You're going to let young guys get in there and get their opportunities to run with the first or second team. And as a guy that's starting, you're still wanting to do what you do. You don't want to get out of that rhythm unless you've been hurt and you need some rest time. But it's basically going back to the basics. I mean, you do drills that you regularly wouldn't do during the season, drills that maybe you would do in preseason, tackling drills, strip drills, all these different types of drills, kind of going back to the basics on offense and defense, stop blocking drills. I mean, all these things that you probably wouldn't do during the season, you go over them. It's both sides of it. And as a coach, it can get pretty tedious because you also have to recruit during that time. This is a good opportunity for you to be going to see a recruit, X or wherever, whether it's here in South Florida or taking a flight somewhere. So, you got to make sure you have your basics covered as far as sometimes the second guy in your staff or your position can take over for you if you have to go out of town. But for most part, they have it where when you leave it's usually when they don't have practice, but sometimes you leave during practice. It's a good thing. It gives everybody time to just refresh themselves. And as a coach, I would kind of half-heartedly watch football, but I'm kind of watching our opponents and future opponents. So, I would think that Coach Cristobal's staff, in some type of way, watch more film. You got to watch game and film, because you're sitting there saying, oh, well, let me see what we're not playing this week. Let's see what these guys are doing. And so you get like that live TV shot that you really don't get when you're sitting in a room watching film on whatever sender. So it's kind of good. I mean, I've always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed that off time, especially when it's needed. When you have X amount of games in a row and you're kind of beat up, you just need that to be able to rest some guys and get them healthy.
It's a little different this year. They moved signing day up. Instead of being the third week of December, it's December 4th. It's coming up real quick here, LT.
Yes, it is.
I got to think that that's a factor for the coaches too, because they're not going to get to do the usual home visits for 3 weeks that they've done in the past and stuff like that. It's a whole different calendar. And I would think in that regard, it helped a lot to have an open week here in mid-November to just shore up recruiting and get back in on guys that you're still hoping to land, make sure the guys that you've already gotten commitments from are solid. You can slice it and dice it up any way you want, but I think it's all positives for the coaches from a recruiting standpoint.
Especially when you have guys that are going to be early enrollees. I think they got a handful of guys that are committed that are going to be early enrollees. So with that being said, you're just trying to close the deal with those guys, make sure everything, shore them up, as you would say. So it works out. It works out. Our off week, I think, really worked out. Hell, we lost the game against Georgia Tech. I think it couldn't have come at a better time. You lose the game. You need 2 weeks to try to get things together and make sure you close this thing out correctly with the 2 wins against Wake Forest and Syracuse to get to the ACC championship.
All right, let's bring in IC. He's ready to join the fray here. And IC, welcome back. Let's go to the three view here. Welcome back to the Lamar Thomas Show. And I see open week, man. What was on your mind here? As I'm not going to call it a vacation. You probably missed my story at the beginning of the show, but I'm not using the word vacation. Mario Cristobal does not do vacations. The Miami football program does not go on vacation, but they did take a pause. We'll say that. And gave the coaches time to recruit a little bit more and have some practice and work on some of the things that failed in the Georgia Tech game. What was on your mind as this all transpired?
Yeah, so I was just, watching other games of college football, watch the Oregon-Wisconsin game, watch a few other games, and I'm just like, man, this thing is wide open right now. Like, there's literally not one single, team in the country that's just, far superior than everyone else. Like, I caught a little bit of the Ohio State game in the beginning, and Northwestern was giving them a run for their money until I think about 5 minutes until halftime. And then you watch the Oregon-Wisconsin game, you see Wisconsin giving those guys a run for their money all the way to the end. Well, I mean, Wisconsin has a Pop Warner offense, so I can see why they couldn't win that game. But just watching college football, taking a step back from, just watching the Hurricanes play on Saturday, and it's just like, if these guys can shore up some things on defense, if these guys can, obviously keep that offense rolling, it's like, I legitimately think there is not one team in this country that is far superior that Miami can't beat after, watching these 10, 11, 12, whatever weeks it may be. It's just like, out of all my years watching college football, this is the most wide open it's been. And this is the best team Miami's had in, 20 some odd years. So that's kind of my biggest take on it. Obviously, recruiting and all that good stuff, but just, not watching Miami Hurricanes football and watching other teams. I just think that, this is anybody's ball game right now. Miami finishes strong these next 2 games and finish strong in the ACC championship. You never know what happens in playoff football. So excited to see what they do against Wake Forest.
But didn't you guys both walk away from the weekend of watching other teams feeling like Miami is right there with all these teams that there's really nobody that you're like, oh my God, we can't compete with, including Alabama and Georgia and certainly Oregon. I mean, when I was watching Oregon, guys, I thought I was watching Miami, quite frankly. I think the teams are very similar.
Well, you sound like Kelvin Harris, because that's what he was saying. Oh, we right up there with everybody. I mean, this guy, man, he thinks we shit. We the national champions already. I'm like, pump your brakes, homeboy. Pump your brakes, okay? But as I'm watching these games, there was a feeling of, hey, I think we can compete with these guys. And when I say this, I'm looking at what we're able to do in the beginning of the season to a Florida team that obviously has gotten better, okay? And watching them play against other teams. And I still say right now, we'll still beat Florida. That's just my opinion. So with that being said, it gives me a little hope to say, hey, if we got to go up against the big boys, we should be okay. Because, again, you can say what you want about Coach Guidry. He, for the most part, has made those corrections in the second half. You think about what's happened in the first half of the game. Sometimes we look a little lost, but the second half we've come out and look like a different team. Obviously, Georgia Tech was able to do some great things. They kept the ball away from us, but when we needed to stop, he was able to get it and get it back to our offense. So it's just one of those things that I feel a lot better after watching last week. Obviously, I didn't have a heart attack last week, so I'm good. But I feel a lot better from just watching other teams and saying, yes, we can compete with these other teams. I don't really see anybody that's like you said. Back in the day, it used to be, man, you look at Alabama, they're just gonna run through everybody. But there's nobody that's Georgia. They're gonna do their best to get Georgia in this thing. Georgia is a lock. I don't care if they have 5 losses, they're a lock. Ohio State is going to be a lock no matter what. I mean, they're going to get these 2 teams in, and
not if they lose to Indiana this weekend.
Well, I really think that even if they lose to Indiana, they're still in. That's just my opinion. I just think that the college football landscape and whoever's up top, they're going to put in those 2 teams regardless. They want to. I mean, they're trying to make every case they can for Georgia, so it is what it is. We just got to do what we have to do. Beat Wake Forest first.
All right, and part of that is correcting what we saw go wrong in the Georgia Tech game. So you mentioned communication and the defense, and obviously everybody's mind is on the defense for justifiable reasons. It was kind of shocking to see the way they got steamrolled up there at Georgia Tech. But Lance Guidry suggested that it wasn't really as physical of a butt whooping as it may have looked, that it was more schematic. And he gave Georgia Tech a lot of credit for wrinkles that they brought into the game and how they confused Miami on defense. And so a big theme this week has been communication, like you mentioned, LT. And, here's what I struggle with, okay? Like, you go through spring practice, you go through off-season workouts, you go through summer workouts, you go through training camp. You're now 11 weeks into the regular season. Like, to me, like, communication shouldn't be a problem at this stage of the game. Why is it, Lamar?
Well, you have a lot of young players back in that secondary. It's every day I see where they should say, hey, we should play this guy, we should play that guy. These are young guys, man. And what teams are doing is they're doing a lot of stuff. And I said this last week, I put a lot of it on the players too. Because you got to study. If you ain't studying, the game is much harder. Okay. And coaches are going to teach you. They're going to put you in the right situations. Now you have to take the assignments and adjustments, and you have to be able to visualize those things and know what you already have to have the question answered. If they do this, this is what we're going to do. And I have to put some of it on those players because as a coach, I know guys are going over, and that's what he's kind of saying that, hey man, they had a good game plan, a good schematics, and they did some things, and they did some things that maybe they hadn't seen, and it worked. And it's up for us to be able to figure it out and make the halftime adjustments or whatever and try to stop it. Now, I think it all started, Duke did an excellent job of just moving people around. And I think from this point on, that's what we're going to see. You know, they're going to milk the clock and move people around, try to keep Cam off the field, try to confuse our defensive alignment. And if you're not lined up in the right place, as we've seen so many times after that Duke game, you know, you're in trouble. You know, Duke, I mean, on one touchdown, I remember, even though it was an easy touchdown for him, there was like another guy wide open because we were all over the place. You know, and that's what happens when you have a lot of young guys in there, in that secondary. And, you know, it's hard. They have to learn how to communicate. And that's what they spent time this week and last week going over and over again, just being able to communicate. And that's important. And I know, like you said, it's week 11. They should be able to do it. But hey, all this movement stuff didn't start until like Duke kind of figured it out and said, okay, we're gonna make you think. And if we're gonna figure out if you're in man-to-man, and we're gonna run a lot of mesh routes, and we're gonna run some rub routes, we're gonna do some things that you haven't seen us do before. And then Georgia Tech, even though they wasn't throwing the ball, they still had some really good concepts that they were able to get us on. And that happens when, you know, you're playing against a good team. And they sat there and they said, hey, this is a game we have to win, and we're going to win. We're going to save some things for this team and some things that they're not going to be able to handle. And it's going to take them a while to adjust to it. That's all coaching.
So I see. So what happens when Wake Forest and/or Syracuse roll out some wrinkles here the next few weeks, and that communication gets tested again? What do you think happens? Can it all be fixed in an open week, I see?
Well, that's what we're about to find out. I mean, that's what I was going to say. I mean, this open week probably came at the perfect time for those guys because all we heard, you know, during that Monday press conference was communication, assignment, alignment, communication, assignment, alignment. So they're hammering that home. And, you know, I alluded to this, you know, last week when we were on the show. It's like, hey, coaches can coach players to the best of their ability. They can put you in front of where the ball's going to go. At the end of the day, you got to put those pads on and you got to make that tackle. Obviously, you know, like I said, coaches are the guys that scheme it up, the guys that prepare you for that. But, hey, when you're in war, you know, you have to make that play. You have to, you know, stop the opposing team. And I think that's what's going to come down to. I have the utmost faith in, you know, Coach Guidry and those guys on the defense side of the ball. And, you know, Lamar alluded to it. He said, hey, you know, in that Georgia Tech game, they got to stop when it needed. They gave the offense, you know, the chance to go win the game. And these conversations, I don't even think we'd be having these conversations really if, you know, Cam Ward led the team down there and scored that touchdown. People would be, you know, praising Miami, the comeback kids again. But, you know, the offense, you know, didn't make, you know, the defense obviously could have done a better job stopping the run and things like that. But at the end of the day, they gave the opportunity for the offense to win the game. And obviously we know how things went down. But, you know, that you know, talking is easy, but when Wake Forest comes out and throws some wacky stuff at Miami, that's when we really know if, you know, the communication, alignment, assignment, that preaching point, you know, really went through with the players. And I'm excited to see what they do against Wake Forest. And don't like to look ahead, but also Syracuse as well, who's known for, you know, throwing the rock around the yard pretty well.
All right, 52 Biggie. I just want to tell 52 Biggie real quick before this disappears. I didn't say that Oklahoma had interest in Shannon Dawson. I said Shannon Dawson had interest in Oklahoma. There's a difference.
Man, they're on your words, man.
And I'm not sure that's going anywhere. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But all right, so go ahead.
You gotta watch what you're writing, man. You gotta watch what you're writing.
People get it mixed up.
So I'm looking at Norris Murray, who said, and it's good that we're going to have somebody come on the show to maybe tell us what happens with this. A defensive end not being a container, that's why we really lost the game. So it's going to be good to hear Kenny talk about what happens, why, and he's a coach. He's coached many years. So what happens and why a guy goes inside when he knows he has contained? And he'll be able to tell us because I know Jason Taylor's teaching it, right? I would think he's a great coach. He ain't out there sweating and trying to look good for no reason. I mean, hell. So there is a reason why this stuff happens, and we've seen it over and over and over again. So when Kenny comes on, that's one of the first questions I'm going to ask him. Why the hell are these damn defensive ends sometimes losing contain and allowing the quarterback or running back or wide receiver on a speed sweep to get outside?
Well, why wait? Like, why do you have to? You don't have to wait to ask Kenny that question because he's here. Kenny Holmes, welcome to the Lamar Thomas Show. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Kenny?
You may not have his volume up.
Turn your volume up.
Hello.
He's frozen. Kenny, okay, there you go. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Let me text him.
Hey, Kenny, can you hear us? Yeah, he doesn't have his volume on. We'll bring him back in a sec. Anyway, so where were we? Okay, so we'll transition to the defensive ends in a minute, but yes, there will be things that have to be adjusted to in these games coming up because
correct.
One of the one of the things that Mario has been specific, he's now called this out twice. They clearly are aware that there are coaches from multiple teams that Miami has played, helping teams that Miami's going to play in the future. They're very wary of the scouting reports and things like that. Can you hear us, Kenny?
I got you guys now.
All right. Welcome to the Lamar Thomas Show, man.
Awesome to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Well, before we get into Vero Beach and how this came about, we have a question right off the rip, man. People want to know why the hell are defensive ends, or why do they lose contain? Can you please enlighten us on this? And you coached for years too, so tell us why this happened. Because I already know, but you tell them.
A number of reasons they lose contain. The biggest one is they're trying to make a play, and they're trying to the far side of the play. They're trying to be involved in that play on the other side when you have guys to that side to be able to fit those gaps and make the ball cut back to you. And they sometimes overplay. Probably the second biggest reason why they lose contain is it may be in the scheme sometimes that they're supposed to fit a certain way, and the linebacker or the safety comes down and he has outside leverage. So those are two of the biggest reasons why you can lose contain playing defensive end.
There you go. You heard it from a great.
If it's because it's not physicality. It's not like they're getting reached. It's down blocks, and they're one-on-one on the edge, or either because the gap, depending on the defensive call, your gap responsibility could change. That safety linebacker that was supposed to fit that A gap, sometimes they'll send the end to go take that A gap or that B gap away, and the linebacker or the safety will work over the top and be the contain. It's different ways to get to contain, and they have just been. I don't know if it's blown assignments or just some calls that just not going their way, but they've been losing big time.
People are complaining about some of the games that they're running, TE games, and saying, hey, they don't work. How about just do what you're supposed to do? Why do they run those tackle in games sometimes? What is that for? What does that do to an offense?
Well, with a mobile quarterback, it kind of makes the picture a little bit cloudy for them up front when you're moving guys around and stunting. When you run a TE game, for instance, the tackle first and the end second, wrapping, the tackle now becomes the new contain guy. So he has to, if the offensive tackle blocks down, he has to pop that block and get to the edge. And a lot of times that's not happening. The end now gap responsibility is changed, and now he's more of a gap inside rusher. They're running so many complicated games and stunts up front now in the NFL. The guy all the way on the other side could be the contain for the other side, and it just confuses the quarterbacks a little bit and kind of makes them step up when they think they have pressure, and they end up stepping up right to where that guy's rapping to.
You know, Kenny, when you were the 18th pick to the Tennessee Titans, right before that, I don't think I saw you lose contain in it. I mean, I know you're trying to get to the quarterback, but you were an assignment-oriented guy, right? You did what you. Is it selfishness sometimes that those guys doing it?
A little bit is selfishness, and you have to play within the constraints of the defense. From me to Sapp to Kennard to Pat Riley to all of the guys, we took chances at times, but it's still within the constraints of the defense.
Wait, you forgot you ain't throw the Rock in there. You didn't throw him in there. You got to
KP, Darren Crine, all those guys. We took chances. It was within the defense, and a lot of times our brother would pick up for us if we did lose contain.
I don't remember Kenny ever busting a defense.
I don't remember that.
Never not fulfilling his assignment ever.
Well, I think Greg Mark might answer that a little different.
Hey, so the communication also is big. It's huge. And trusting. It's huge. You know, and that's one. Go ahead, Kenny.
LT, you notice that when you are with a group of guys and you guys hang out after school, classes together, you care a little bit more about them, and when they make a mistake, you're usually there to try to, even though that it wasn't my job, I'm going to work around this way because I know this dude is going to go inside. If I know he's going to go inside on this play, he'll tell me, hey, I'm going to go at 10. Well, they'll put me and Javon Curse on the same side to make a edge. And I'll tell him, man, listen, if this guy is overset, I'm going inside right now. So when you get ready to rap, you better rap quick. So it also, you have to have teammates that also aren't selfish and willing to sacrifice sometimes for the great good.
Kenny, you know, when I think I already know the answer, but I always ask guys, why the University of Miami? Coming from Vero Beach. Why the University of Miami, man? What was it about the University of Miami?
Man, the family atmosphere, the brotherhood we had prior to me getting down there. We had Randy Bethel and Dale Dawkins and James Stewart go down there recently while I was in high school, and and when I went on my visit, it just seemed like it was a home away from home, and you know, all of the old guys come back and fit right in. It's no button of heads. Nobody's not speaking or thinking they're better than this or that. This is just the atmosphere down there with all of the old Canes. And
I wanted to ask you about a young defensive end Miami has right now, Ruben Bain, just, you know, a guy that had a huge freshman year and, you know, still doing big things this year. Just what are your thoughts about, you know, him and his game?
You know, from watching him, man, I really think that he may have put on a little much weight. I think if he can slim up a little bit, and you know, he height-wise, he may be a little bit undersized, but I think he kind of he's trying to make up for that with bulk. And that ain't the case. There's no need to, because you are a dominant player. So okay, when I played in the Super Bowl, I was because we went through the whole season, I was 245 pounds starting in the Super Bowl at defensive end. If you're a dude and you can play, don't worry about the weight.
My thing is, and again, I'm not the coach, and I'm an offensive guy, but I know a little football. And my opinion of the guy is the 3 technique, similar to a John Randall type player. And I think he's, you know, that end thing is you got to have a lot of moves and you got to have a lot of stuff going on to be an end. You got to have some. I think he's more of a power guy. That's just my opinion.
No, I think that when they got him, they thought that he could play, and I know this to be true, talking to Coach Joe Salavea, that they thought he can play inside and out, and I think he can. I think not to sacrifice fluidity and movement for weight. I personally don't agree with that.
I think it's hard for him to keep the weight down. I mean, he's a big, strong guy, and I'm not sure. Like, I'm with LT on this. Like, I don't know that his future is outside. Regardless, he doesn't really bring the speed rush element from the outside into the game. He's more like a bull rusher anyway. So shouldn't he just by default be inside if that's his strength?
I really think that, yeah. Short answer, yes. I think he is a guy that you can move around and take advantage of situations. If you have different blockers on offense. You got some guys that can't handle the bull rush and they play tackle. So you want to match with that guy. And I think he's one of those guys you can move up and down the line and take your advantage of matchups.
Yeah, that's interesting. So there's a place for the bull rusher on the outside.
Oh yeah,
it just has to be the right matchup.
Strahan was a power. He wasn't a strictly a bull rusher, but he was a power rusher. Yeah.
Wow, man. I'm glad we brought you on the show because you're clearing up a lot of stuff. We don't. As an offensive guy, I'm faking it. So for you to say all this is love. I mean, my dad probably sitting at home and say, "Boy, that boy taught me something tonight." So this is awesome, man. This is good to hear. You saying that you played in the Super Bowl, you threw that in there. What was that experience like? We bring this up too. Like, what was that whole experience like? I mean, to play in the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously, I don't know. Did you play in the Super Bowl?
Pop born in the Super Bowl, maybe, but no big leagues.
Maybe. So, and Gary, did you play in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I played in the Super Bowl.
Well, I don't even want to hear what Super Bowl you're talking about. But go ahead, Kenny.
Hey,
I played reporter.
There you go. We grow up as kids playing this game because we play it, and you always in the backyard when you're 8, 9, 10 years old talking about this is the Super Bowl and this is the last play, and you go through all those scenarios and having an opportunity to live that, man, you can't put words to it. It's amazing, and just being there, knowing that these are the final two teams out of all of the teams in the NFL is amazing. Something that you dreamed of as a kid growing up.
When you sit and you reflect back on your career, and you made it to the Super Bowl. What are some of the things that helped you from Vero, from the University of Miami and Vero, building up to that Super Bowl? What are some of the things that you might have learned to help you get to where you were able to achieve your goals and playing that Super Bowl?
I would say, from high school, having the support that I didn't have to go out and have a job through the summers and all of that my family made sure that I was where I was supposed to be, whether it was baseball games or I think me personally, I think multi-sport athletes, that's the route. Specific guy can get burnt out. I think having multi-sport athletes and you're in different events year-round allows you to switch your focus and not get burnt out. And I think from growing up from junior high and high school, that was big. Being able to do basketball, baseball, and football kind of kept me on my toes. And then when I got to the University of Miami, opening my eyes to you guys, to the that were there, man, and you like, man, God, dog, I saw these guys on TV. Lamar Thomas, seeing these guys on TV and how hard you work. That's the other thing. And it made me say, you know what? If I'm gonna be where they're at, I gotta work like that. Stop. All those guys your work ethic is, and it's not just because you have that U in your chest, you just became a great player. You guys put in a lot of work, and it kind of down to the younger guys.
And that work ethic carries over to so many things in life. And after you got done playing, you went into coaching and have been involved in coaching for a long time. Did that change your viewpoint on football? Like, going to the other side and being a coach?
Absolutely. Going to a coach, the amount of time and hours, LT, that you put, it's crazy. A lot more than as a player, and that opens your eyes to how much sacrifice that these coaches have done to be away from their families, to be able to birthdays and weddings and all that stuff like that you as a player don't know.
Don't know. Yep.
I was going to read off your coaching resume here, but it's a little incomplete, so you're going to have to fill in the gaps for me. But you started out at Vero Beach High School in 2008. You were the defensive coordinator and defensive line coach. Then you went to New Mexico State as a graduate assistant. You became the defensive line coach at New Mexico Military. Then you went to San Diego as associate head coach and defensive line coach. Then to Idaho for 2 years as defensive line coach. Then to FIU for 2 years as defensive line coach. That gets us to 2018. I apologize. I can't find your resume past 2018. So bring us up to speed. Where you've been the last 6 years and what you're doing.
I have been coaching. Well, I'll help out every now and then at the high school at Vero, but I've been coaching my grandson's 10-year-old, since they were 6.
Oh, wow.
So I've been coaching that team here, and I'm taking a break from college coaching, period, because it is to a whole nother level of time. These 2 signing periods, I could only imagine.
You're living in Vero, right?
Well, I was about to get to that, Gary. Hold on.
All right, go ahead.
I don't want to cut you off, but I got to get to the old cheating Vero Beach over there. You can't come up in the Vero and because you got that horn playing right behind the sideline. I experienced it twice and got ran up out of there. And then y'all got the nerve to have another school, Sebastian River, over across, not too far. Yeah, I mean, you can't come up in y'all county and get no wins up in that, man. Y'all know hey Kenny, I've been to your house. And I've seen some referees at your house too. I've been there.
LT, at least we feed you good.
They do. Hey, that and Glaze, they do feed you well. They fatten you up and even pay you to come in there and be a sacrificial lamb. And Garrett, you're gonna be deaf by the time they got a horn behind the bench on the business side that never stops playing. You can't even Gary, it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable what happens in Vero Beach. The fact that they giving you money to tell you don't want them on the schedule. You don't want to go up there. I mean, it is unbelievable, the atmosphere in Vero Beach.
It is. When I went down to Miami and some of those guys that I played with at Miami, they were like, man, you know what? We come up there to Vero to play, and we leave there deaf. We can't hear. Can't hear nothing. Part of the atmosphere. They enjoy it though because it's really Friday Night Lights in Vero.
Yeah, Gary, and I'm telling you, it is an experience like no other. They have definitely home field advantage, and it's a great environment for high school football. I mean, when you go to games, I go to games sometimes, and I look up in the stands, and it's not what it used to be back in the day when it was packed. But Vero, they come out. They're going to come out to watch their team, their community team. Now they have obviously Sebastian River that kind of cuts it in half a little bit, but they still come out and support their local team like no other. I mean, you go in these restaurants, there are pictures on the wall of all these Vero great players. It is an environment like no other. I mean, obviously my in-laws are there, so I go up there, and actually I'll be there on Thanksgiving, Kenny. So we got to get together.
We will be getting together next week for sure.
Yeah, I will be coming over there to get some of your food. We won't talk about that, but I'll be coming over there to get some of your food because you got spices in your stuff. I'm just saying.
Well, you something else. You gonna bring your father-in-law with you, ain't you?
Oh yeah, the father-in-law definitely coming. He gonna eat too. He said, "Boy, this food good over here."
That's my guy.
Hey, Kenny, there's a kid over there in Vero Beach this year by the name of TJ Alford that Miami has been trying like crazy to flip from Ohio State, where he's committed, and come to the U. What is there any vibe in town about TJ Alford?
Yeah, what you got? What you got for us?
His parents are actually Miami fans. So I mean, they just gonna have to buckle down and try to get him. He before all of this, before he's committed to Ohio State, he said that he wanted to go to Miami. He comes down to the games when we have home games down there a lot. He's been down a couple times this year. So he's got to do that due diligence and
got to do the due diligence.
I mean, look, dog. We got Bear. We got Bear.
Check.
Dale Dawkins, and in Bear his coach. Is Bear his coach?
Yeah,
come on, man.
Hey, I just
come
told
on,
you,
and we got you.
It's a different age, man. These dudes looking at that NIL money, man. It's a different age.
Hey, man. Hey, man. You need to help. You need to give him a picture or something, bro. By the way, Kenny collects pictures, art. Okay, and this is a great story. So my father-in-law, we go to Kenny's house, and he's asking, "What do you do? What do you do?" And I say, "Well, he collects art." He's, maybe I should buy some art from him. And I wanted to say it, but I let Kenny say it. And when it came out of Kenny's mouth, what type of art he has, he said, "Oh, I think that's out of my price range." Kenny collects art, man. He's an art collector.
Yeah,
I do. Can you see? I mean, look at him.
Yeah, I do.
How many paintings do you own? How many paintings do you own right now?
I currently own 388.
Wow.
Yeah.
See?
And producing a movie.
Y'all thought I was playing.
I'm producing a movie about this art too. So.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you do with them all?
God, they're in storage and different houses that I own.
Oh wow!
Just collect them. I love the artwork, the story behind it. It's called the Highwayman Art, and it's 26 Afro-American artists that grew up in the Jim Crow South that actually made a living and made a way through art back when that wasn't supposed to be the case.
Wow!
So it'll be a movie about out February, March next year.
Wow. And I got to tell you this, Gary. If you ever go to his house, I'm just telling you, the one house I went to, okay? Don't break down once you get in the gate because you got a long walk to his house. Like I literally thought, I thought that he said, turn left when you get to the lights. So I come in the gate, me and my father-in-law, and I was like, well, where's the house? And we driving. I still ain't seen the house because I only got to the game room house. You got to listen to this. It's a weightlifting game room house that, just a little something. But we couldn't even see the house that was back. I mean, it's incredible, Kenny. I don't mean to put your business out there, but dang, well, you done a great job there in Vero, boy. That's why. Woo, if I ever get kicked out of the in-laws, I know where I'm going.
Better come on over. You already know. You got to.
Hey Kenny, you mentioned NIL? What do you think of modern day college football with all this NIL and you've recruited as a college coach and you can relate and imagine what it would be like now if you were involved in it. What do you think of it all?
You know what? I honestly and truly believe that players should be compensated. I think it's the Wild West right now, and they're gonna have to try to put a skirt on this some kind of way. And because really what's going to happen is the rich is going to continue to get richer because you can have limited budget to be able to spend X amount of dollars on kids is different than Youngstown State or somebody that's smaller that doesn't have that budget. So they're just going to have to figure out a way to try to put a skirt on it to kind of curtail it a little bit. But it's definitely these kids definitely need to be compensated. I know during the summers when I was in Miami, I wish I had this NIL money.
Now, the question I have for you, Kenny, because I get asked this all the time, if we had that NIL, would we have been as hungry? I mean, the reason why I was hungry is because I wanted to get fed. I wanted to get paid at some point. You know what I mean? So it drove me to say, I don't want to ever go back to Gainesville. Okay, I don't want to ever go back there unless I'm visiting my parents. I don't want to go back there and work. I don't want to go back there and be a substitute teacher. None of that. So I got to make it. But these guys, man, could you imagine making $1.5 million as a college student?
No, I could not. I having seen the way this thing is going and has gone, and that's a valid answer. That if we had that, would we have the drive that we had back then? I think the cream top one, and then two, I think those we would have just been able to do more for our family earlier.
Correct. Correct.
I think we would have had the drive to want to make that kind of money in the NFL.
Well, I'm just being honest with you, dog. I'd have had COVID 7 times. I've been like McCormick or whatever the hell his name. I've been year 8 in college.
You already?
I mean, why even go to the pros? I mean, you making $500,000. I mean, it is what it is, man. I'd be like, look, I'm trying to go back to renegotiate every year. Hey, look here, I gave y'all 2 real good games. It's more to come.
That's right. If not, I would be taking my services elsewhere. That's what they do.
It is.
That is what they're doing. But
I mean, it's crazy.
But Kenny, what about a kid like TJ Alford? He hasn't played 1 second of college football yet. Like, how do they strike the balance in this thing, man? Miami's gotten burnt on some of these guys coming out of high school that have not panned out.
Absolutely, I agree 1,000%. These kids hadn't played 1 snap, and they're getting this kind of money. It's crazy. So you're going to have some kind of regulations on this in order to make it fair, not just for the 5th-year senior or the 4th-year senior, but also for those incoming freshman guys that hadn't played a snap. I agree 1,000%.
Hey, Kenny, I got a question for you. So you're in your last year in college, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we're getting a freshman that's gonna come in and he's gonna be making either more or the same dollar. How are you looking at that guy?
That could cause a lot of animosity and beef on teams. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a strong culture or a strong head coach or deep pockets to rectify that, I think that's kind of what happened to, from what I heard, to the basketball program. A guy was coming with all this money, and these guys like giving him all this money. It happens.
I mean, it's a tough situation. I mean, it is. I just don't know. I'm kind of glad. I was mad at my daddy for doing it so early, but I'm kind of glad. Yeah, well, I said that. I said they should have waited, but he kind of gave me a wrong answer on that. So we're gonna leave that alone. But the fact that these guys are making generational money for their families, and a lot of times, this is what I'm hearing from college coaches. They're like, why are we even for the 3 days they're there? Why are we even doing this? All they want to do is talk to the NIL guy. That's all they want to talk to. They want to. all the pictures, they don't even care about that. What they want to know is how much.
Yeah.
So it's not even your mouthpiece anymore getting recruits or what you have. It's how much.
Yeah, that and that's the way of football. There's no right or wrong way to fix it, but something needs to be done and put in place in order for this thing to get straightened out, because it's just going to get worse and worse. It's continue to grow. It's going to get worse and worse if they don't.
Well, they're going to go to revenue sharing soon, and basically they'll have a pot of money of $20 million to pay the whole team, and yeah. It's like a salary cap, yeah. But
Can a team like Georgia State come up with $20 million? Can a team like
no?
That's what I mean. Can FIU come up? Well, they probably can.
No, but if you want to be competitive in college football, you better come up with it. But then what's going to happen on top of that? There's still going to be NIL. So the better players are still going to get NIL on top of the revenue sharing that comes direct from the university. Crazy, huh?
Sign me up. Sign me up, Gary.
I'm telling you, the wild west.
Sign me up. So Kenny, how did the team do this year? The youngins, how did they do this year?
And we were undefeated. My 10-year team was undefeated the entire year, and we get to the Super Bowl. Team that we beat early in the year, 22-0. We end up losing to them.
Oh man!
They walked on the field
they
walk on the field like they supposed to win automatically, and we had 6 turnovers, and the other team had not one.
Oh, what Kenny, was it coaching?
Well, I start questioning. It might have been coaching, Coach. It might have been coaching.
I'm turning around on you.
I gotta look in the mirror.
Say that again. I didn't.
I said I gotta look.
Say that again. So they end up losing the only game of the whole year. So what was the speech like at the end? What was the speech like? To lose in the Super Bowl. What was that? What was that speech like?
They so used to winning because this is the first game lost in like 3 years. So they so used to they crying, boo-hoo crying. I was like, you know what? Because the times that you don't show up to practice, the times that when it's a little bit of rain, you want to go up under the pavilion, the times that you don't finish and run hard and finish the drills, all that catches up with you. This is speech. This is where we're at right now. You guys got to take this more serious to where you want to go out and dominate every single snap, and it's not just given that somebody's going to roll over and let you win.
So Kenny, one more question for you that I wanted to ask you, and it's a Vero Beach question. So do you run the same offense and defense as the high school? Is it like a farm club for your high school? Because again, Vero Beach is cheating all the damn time. I'm just saying, I want to know. Come on, give it to me.
I think
Did we lose it?
up.
I think we lost him. That's the question.
That was a great time.
He froze up on that question.
Yeah.
Possibly intentionally.
See if we can get him back real quick. See if we can get him back.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll come back here. Let me
Let's see, we got any questions for him on here. Kenny, how is your team's eye discipline? That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll come back. You're so right, Lamar, about Vero Beach. I went there once for a high school game, and I was blown away by it's really a community event there, and the kids buy into it. You know, the kids that come out of Vero Beach are usually pretty good players. And I know how badly Miami wants TJ Alford this year. In fact, I see you've been on that over the last several days. How do you see that one playing out?
I think it's going to be a 30 in a row that Miami flips a Florida guy from Ohio State, because kind of very similar to Hayden Lowe, the guy that just recently flipped from USC. He kind of said, I've been committed to USC for, a few months now, but with Miami, I've always been their guy. They've always let me know, no matter what, until the very end, if you want to, come join us in our class, we'll have that spot for you. And I think that's been a similar case for TJ Alford. He committed to Ohio State early. Like Kenny was saying, he's a guy, his dad is a Miami fan. His dad still lives in Miami. He has a lot of ties to, South Florida. And they're kind of telling him, hey, you don't need to, go to Ohio State, be that guy. You can come, be that guy down in Miami in front of your family, have your family at every practice, have your family at all these games. So they're really kind of selling him to kind of be that hometown hero type of guy. And I think it's going to end up working. He's visited campus twice now this year for games. He's always leaving with a big smile. And kind of my biggest takeaway from the last time he was there for the Florida State game is he kind of told me, he said, hey, 2 years ago, Coach Cristobal told me he's going to turn this around. And I'm finally seeing that now. These guys are really rocking, and, why not want to be a part of something special like that? So, right now, I think, things are still getting worked out. Obviously, he's still committed to Ohio State, but I think, they get it done at the end of the day. He's a Hurricane, on December 4th.
I think Kenny knew something. He obviously hears the scuttlebutt. You could, a lot of it is about NIL. Unfortunately, when that's what it comes down to in some of these cases. But Miami has learned that you want to be number one at signing day. If you've got the best situation out there, the best offer out there 2-3 months before signing day, all that does is become a target. Okay.
Yep.
So they have to manage, they have a budget, and they have to manage within the budget for recruiting. But if a kid is a good enough player, and this guy might be, it's better if you're going to step up a little bit to do it at the end, which is, why I think this is dragging out. It's not quite signing day yet, but we're, I guess, 2 weeks out from today, and they still have been unable to flip TJ Alford. So the clock's starting to run tight.
Also, Gary, there are a lot of kids that it's kind of similar to what you're saying, that they're getting offers coming in right now that are, and they're trying to weigh their decisions, and they're only a handful of them, I think, are probably saying, well, I think this place is better for me, even though this place is going to pay me more. But I guarantee you more is going to the payment. And that's kind of crazy, because I know for a fact there's some guys that Oregon is going after that we have, and they're trying to pay more dollars, and they're making these families make decisions on whether they're going to make that trip all the way out to Oregon or move out to Oregon, or stay here and maybe get less money because Oregon's throwing the bank at them, because it is a battle in this recruiting thing, especially the rich teams and I'm probably sure it's probably like this in basketball. Oh, I'm sorry. It's been like this in basketball, especially like Kentucky and places like that. But it's who has the most money, or it's a macho thing. Like Dan Lanning is going nuts trying to go after some of the players. I know one in particular that Mario has, and he is trying to throw the bank at him. And it is, hopefully the kid makes the right decision. Him and his family make the right decision and say, hey, you know what? Hey, for 500 or 200 less, maybe we should stay here. Because as a coach, you're putting a lot of pressure on a freshman to come in when he's making that type of money.
Because they're going to want to cut the amount if he's not producing.
Yes, they're going to want to cut the amount. Kid probably transfer, or team-wise. You got guys that have been there, who worked their way up, who've done everything they're supposed to do, and they get their opportunity, and they're making X amount of dollars, and then you're bringing in a guy that has not played a down in college football, and he's getting paid 2 times more than a guy that's worked his ass off. I've always said this. I think it's a bad deal for college football, especially team-wise. Only the strong teams are going to survive, because you got to be able to counsel these kids and be a shrink every day. It's more to just coaching. And as I've taken a break from it, and I go out there and watch practice, I see them every day putting their arms around guys, talking to them. You cannot not talk to guys like you used to. There were the top 22, and maybe some of the reserves that the coach talked to. Not anymore. You better talk to everybody, because if you don't,
the whole roster.
Tulane or some UAB is coming in and they're gonna offer some money and say, hey, you come here and be a star, and we'll give you X amount of dollars. I know you only make 100 there. We'll give you 300. They're gone. They're gone.
And
no more development.
Some of that. We're going to see some of that after December 9th when the portal opens, no doubt. But fortunately, Miami's got the support of the university. The budget is there for NIL. They're very competitive, but they do have to try to keep certain things under wraps because they don't want exactly what you're talking about, the culture to fall apart. And there has to be some fiscal sensibility to it all, especially with these kids coming out of high school because like I said, they've been burnt by several of these, big ticket high school kids that are 5 stars coming out of high school that just don't come and play like 5 stars, and it creates a problem for them. So it's an interesting.
You have to,
dynamic.
Yeah, you have to do your due diligence as far as recruiting these kids and studying these kids and getting to know them and see what type of kid they are, because if you bring in the wrong kid under that type of a deal, it's going to end bad. And you have to make sure that kid is the right kid. One of the things I did when I was recruiting guys, I mean, obviously it wasn't in NIL time, but when I went into these schools to recruit these guys, I would ask the janitors, the secretary at the front desk, grab a student, say, hey, what do you think about this guy? Because I want to know, because those people will tell the truth. And they'll tell you exactly what the janitors are the greatest, because they'll tell you if a kid spends most of his time in the bathroom smoking weed, getting high. I mean, they'll tell you everything you need to know because they know everything. So it was always great to find a kid, for example, Lamar Jackson. Asking people around Boynton Beach High School, great things to say about him. Say he's a character, he's a joker, he loves everybody loves to be around him, loves being his teammates. These are things I was able to take back to my coach and give him that information. Now, on the flip side of that, as far as a guy today, you better make sure that he is a team player, because if he's not a team player, he's going to get there, and if that freshman year doesn't go right, it's going to be some problems. And as far as I may need to go with this place, or and a lot of times these 5-star guys, and this is my opinion, I recruit a lot of them, or try to recruit a lot of them, they don't pan out. And what that means is they don't pan out because the shit gets hard. A lot of them are given. Okay, they're given. They're patted on the back. They're told, hey, you're good, you're great. They don't have to work as hard. They might show out in the game, but I've seen guys go watch practice and seen them not be as good in practice, not giving effort. And those are the guys you don't want in your program, because let me tell you something. If the shit don't go right, you're going to be burned. And that's what you mean by being burned.
Yeah. They'll tear down your walls, man. They'll tear down your culture.
Not the best. You got to recruit guys that you actually watch film on, and not go by these people who are giving out these damn rankings. Half of them never played the game. They got a little niche. They're giving out rankings, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And so you got to do your due diligence, sit down and watch film, get your own opinion on these guys, go watch them, go watch their mannerisms on the sideline, because you can tell a lot. If I see a kid celebrating with other guys, I'm like, he's a team player. You see some guys ain't celebrating with, he's not a team player. He's not a team, sitting by himself on the bench. He's not a team player. These are guys you don't want. I refuse. I would always say, I don't coach. I know you want this guy, but I don't know. I don't want to coach a guy like that. I don't want that guy in my room.
It's all about evaluation, Lamar.
All about evaluation. You're right.
And like you said, you better go beyond just the physical ability as a football player that you think that kid has. The character aspect of it, how he fits into your culture, how smart is he? Like, is he going to be able to pick up your systems, or is he going to be busting on game day? All these things are factors, and you got to go really deep. And I think that
how's his home life? Yeah, that's another one. Man. That's the one that you can't overlook. If the kid don't really have a home life, he run the streets. What you think he's going to do when he get to college?
No doubt.
With money in his pocket.
No doubt, with money in his pocket. Yeah, and it puts a lot of stress, I think, on the football programs, because now they're not just recruiting 20, 25 high school kids. they're recruiting 2025 high school kids, and then a whole nother group of transfers. And it puts, to me, a big evaluation burden on the football program. And I think the schools that figure that out, Lamar, are going to be the ones that are at the forefront here over the next 5-10 years.
I see, you being around these young kids, I know you can tell a lot from just a conversation of who's an I guy and who's really a team guy, because they're not even trying to fool you nowadays.
Yeah, no, I've had the chance, and somebody mentioned a player. I'll give you kind of two examples of 2 5-star guys that have kind of had completely different, paths that Miami was recruiting heavily. So someone mentioned, Cormani McClain. Gary, you know about this story. He commits to Miami, and I make a 5-hour drive up to Lakeland, excited to talk to him, highlight him, new Miami commit. And then I get to Lakeland, and I'm like, hey, Cormani, just drove from Miami. You mind if I get a quick story about your commitment? He's like, can't do interviews. I'm sorry. I was like, I'm just a quote or two about, you just committed to Miami. You made big news. You surprised a lot of people. He's like, can't do it. Sorry. And then he goes to the parking lot and chills in the car with his friends and things like that. Obviously, I don't know what was going on with that situation. I'm like, darn it, man. I just drove, through the state of Florida to go interview this guy. And then on the flip side, you have a guy like Jeremiah Smith, who's committed to Ohio State, the #1 wide receiver in the last 20 years. And every time I showed up to Shama Madonna, he knew I was coming to talk about Miami, but he still gave me the interview and still was respectful about everything. It was awesome. Just a kid that was always welcoming. He could have been, the biggest diva in the world, but one of the nicest guys I've ever, covered in the recruiting. And, you see how he turns out, and you see how, obviously I'm not trying to, bash Cormani McClain or say
great
anything.
Examples. That's how I'll bash him, because you drove 5 hours to go see him and he disrespected you. I'll bash him. I have no problem bashing him. It's a great example, Lamar, because you got the one kid who doesn't handle his business in a respectful way, who now has been to Colorado, flamed out of Colorado, struggling in Gainesville. I don't think he's thriving in Gainesville now. And then you got the other kid who's, one of the more freakish players of our generation, and totally respectful. Probably was never intending to come to Miami, although he played around a little bit. He was always going to Ohio State, but every time IC goes out to Chaminade to see him, treats IC with respect, as he should. He goes to college. He's a great player, great character, a great teammate. All this stuff you're talking about makes a huge difference.
Well, I can tell you this. I have another Lakeland story. I have a Cormani McClain story. I don't want to pile on him, but I'm going to talk about this other kid that I was recruiting out of Lakeland. I go to watch him. He's a 5-star receiver. One is real bad. I mean, real bad. I watch his practice. Well, first I go to school. He ain't even there. Red flag. So I go to attendance, and I use my charm and my good smelling cologne and maybe even some smiles, and I get attendance things, and I look over attendance. Ooh, it's not good. Okay. Then I look through an unofficial transcript. Not good. Okay. So I already have in my mind, red flags, right? Go to practice. He's cussing out coaches. I ain't running that. Man, you must. Yeah. I'm like, oh, hell no. You think I want this guy in my room? So I go back to Petrino. Did we get him? Coach, we don't want him. Are you kidding me? You don't tell me who we want, coach. I'm telling you, you do not want this guy. He's bad deal. The coach asked me to talk to him. I'm talking to the guy. He's looking out the damn window. I just knew he was going to flame out. Make a long story short, we fall off. He goes to Florida. I think he's there a month before he gets kicked out of school. 5-star receiver.
Believe it.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
100%. He showed a lot of great stuff on the field, but there's more to it, guys. There's more to bringing a guy in your room. Now, if I don't like you as a coach, I might get that D lineman that has some problems and put him in your room so your ass be fired. You know what I mean? I ain't bringing a guy in my room to get me fired like that. And it happens, man. It's just these guys, they get these rankings sometimes, and it goes to their head, and they truly don't understand what they're doing. They're young. They don't have an adult that can tell them, hey, man, you're doing it wrong. And that's one of the things I try to do as a coach. Even if you weren't coming to me per se, I tried to educate you. I had a kid out of Cardinal Gibbons, a wide receiver that we were recruiting because he was committed to us from the previous staff with Charlie Strong. He was a wide receiver. He wanted to play the hat game. And I said, listen, here's the deal. We got 5 days of signing day. I need to know right now. He said, well, you'll find out in 5 days. I said, I tell you what, this won't be my last job. And I swear to God, if I'm on the NFL level and I see your name come through, I'm saying we don't want your ass. You got to understand, you're messing with people's lives, buddy. This hat game stuff, you can do it. But just tell me the truth. I don't care. If you're going to X place, let me know now. This hat game stuff, I'm not going to be sitting there on signing day sweating. And when I told him that, and I said, hey, just understand that I'm telling other coaches too. All right, coach, yeah, I'm going to Wisconsin. I said, I laughed in his face because I'm like, he'll be calling me in a year or two. And he called me in a year or two because Wisconsin wasn't throwing the ball. So, I mean, these decisions these guys make, these decisions, you know, you have to try to educate them and say, hey, this is not the right way to do this because guess what? You're messing with my livelihood. And I tell you what, if I see your ass again, I'm not going to co-sign for you because you already screwed me once. You know, be a man. I called every school that I was, before I announced my decision, I called the schools and I tell everybody to do this. Call the schools and say, hey, coach, just want you to know, I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I'm going to school X. You know, I thank you so much. Who knows? Maybe we'll catch up later. That's that's an adult way to do things. That means somebody's in your house helping you because you don't want to look like a butthole to these coaches too. Because again, with this whole transfer portal now, why am I going to take somebody who screwed me and made me look like a fool and maybe even got me fired from a job because I didn't get you? And I had to find out.
Look at Earl Little's kid. Earl Little's kid turns his back on Miami to go to Alabama, flames out up there after now he's at Florida State where the program's imploding.
Yep. You cannot. You have to be an adult about these situations. And I know that's asking a lot for some of these kids because obviously they don't have maybe they don't have the two parents at home. And the mom's trying to do all she can, or the dad, you know, and, you know, hopefully they understand that somebody needs on that campus to tell them, hey, you do it the right way, it'll work out for you the best way. Because if you do it the right way, you'll be able to call all these people if it doesn't work out and say, hey, coach, I know I made this decision, but I would like to come there now. And they'll say, hey, you know what? You were man enough to be honest with me. Hey, let me talk to my head coach. Maybe we can do that. That's the way it goes. But this hat stuff and the shirts taken off, I hope and pray that they've told everybody, the right people, about their decision. And now the coaches don't have to worry about it because I'm telling you, coaches are human too. You screw me then, I'm going to find a way to screw you later.
The burden the burden to evaluate at this level is enormous. I mean, Miami brought in 41 new players last year, LT. That's like 2 signing classes. I mean,
yes,
and you know, this is something I've been pounding the table on a little bit for the last several years. I mean, I really think like you're going to be spending $25-30 million at least a year on football players between revenue sharing and NIL. And like, you better be spending $1 million on having the best scouts and the best evaluators in your building to make sure that you're taking the right kids. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. And, you know, I hope Mario, you know, goes in this direction because when you're bringing 40 kids, like you can't vet all those kids properly unless you have the proper expertise and the proper staffing to do it. Especially in a transfer portal situation where you might have 24 hours to move on a kid. You know, I mean, the game has changed. And to me, the evaluation burden has changed.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's changed tremendously. And I mean, you got to be on top of it. And that's why I think that the example of the Alabama having so many people in the building kind of helps, because you can, the coach can coach, and you got people who can evaluate and take some of that burden off, and now you're not having to burn that candle at both ends all day. Having a bunch of people in the building, thanks to Manny Diaz and Rick, Coach Rick, they brought to the attention to the athletic department and everybody else that, hey, they've been having guys do 3 jobs. Some of these coaches do 3 jobs, recruiting and this and that, and there are guys that were doing too much. And now we're getting more coaches, we're getting more people in the building to take some of the pressure so guys can do what they're supposed to do, and your job is to do something else. And I think it's great, and that's what it's going to have to go to, because you're going to have guys that can evaluate 3 or 4 guys at the same time. You take it, you look at it, you figure it out. Is this guy the guy for us? No, he's not. All right, we'll go to the next guy. Or yes, he is.
All right, let's take a moment here. Let's hear from our friends at CaneSport.
Welcome to CaneSport. New store, new items, same great experience. Family owned and operated since 2010, CaneSport has the latest merchandise from the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, Inter Miami CF, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of 595, or online at caneswear.com. CaneSport, the spot Miami fans shop.
All right, guys, we're talking about Cam Ward jerseys. We're talking about hats. We're talking about T-shirts, polos, hoodies. If it's got a U logo on it, you can go over to CaneSport and get it. They're at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, without question. Ooh, that would look nice. Nice.
I see this in your apartment. I see this.
Yeah, that would work for you. I see. Put a little Bluetooth on your computer and have the Magnus.
Bring a little something over. You know what I mean? Had a light going. Woo, single life, baby, single life.
But yeah, like anything that you could possibly want with a U logo on it, they've got at CaneSport. So get on over there, 2655 South University Drive in Davie. They're 15 minutes north of Hard Rock. You're going to the game this weekend. They're opening at 8 o'clock. Stop on by CaneSport on your way to the stadium and get yourself some new Cane stuff. You can even do some early holiday shopping for anybody in your family, your friends. And if you can't get to the store, you can go to caneswear.com. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. You can shop their entire inventory. You see a lot of it behind me here tonight on show. LT's live in the store. You see all that gear. Their shelves are stocked. They are ready for you. So get yourself over to CaneSport as soon as you can.
Hey, Garrett, somebody's asking, and I need to ask Ken. Hey, do you guys have the Cam Ward headphones? No.
No Cam Ward
headphones. That was Eddie asked. Eddie Delva asked Cam Ward headphones. Nah. No, sorry about that. Oh, and the Playmaker shirts. Are the Playmaker shirts still in stock here? They're still in stock. Panhandle Kane 89. Still in stock. Come get you.
All right, let's spend the last segment of the show here, and let's go through some of these questions and comments that are that some of our viewers have been putting in the chat here during the show. Not a great topic here, but Christopher Wright is asking if Coach Guidry's really on the hot seat. How do you put a coach on the hot seat?
When you're 9-1.
When you're 9-1, when you don't have the level of personnel. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I mean, they're flying by the seat of their pants every day. But now in fairness, you could be mad that they haven't adjusted as well as maybe they could all the time. Like the Georgia Tech game was a bad example on that regard. But LT, like I don't know that Lance Guidry's on any hot seat right now.
I would think not. I mean, I would hope not. I mean, it's I think the depth in the secondary, guys getting hurt, injured. linebacker. There's some depth issues there. So full complement of guys. I mean, it's I personally like Coach Guidry. And maybe some of the listeners, the viewers might not. I think that he has a good game plan. It's just that, hey, when you don't sometimes have those guys out there, it's a Jimmy's and Joe's game. If you gotta have Jimmy's and Joe's, man. You gotta have those guys. And hey, we're playing a lot of young people in the secondary. The guys got some secondary problems. Some guys got hurt, but I like him. I think he's good for the program. He's made in some games. He's made some second half adjustments that I really liked and caused some problems for some offenses that maybe in the first half were doing a lot of good stuff. And you got to understand, a lot of times when teams have weeks off or they're playing the University of Miami, they're going to save their best and they're going to do some trickery stuff and they're going to do some stuff that you haven't seen. And it's up for the defensive coordinator and that defensive staff to make those proper adjustments. And sometimes you can't get to the proper adjustments until you get to the locker room. And so I would hope he's not on the hot seat, and that's not a good way to go about things when you're 9-1, to have your defensive coordinator thinking that he might get fired when you're 9-1. So I would hope not. That's just my opinion. Go ahead, IC.
Yeah, I was going to say I was ready for this because I remember last year when the offense was struggling, everybody's like, we got to get rid of Shannon Dawson. We got to fire him. We got to fire him. Shannon Dawson gets some weapons on offense. You get Cam Moore, the number one offense in the country. Now he's getting looks for head coach. I get it. Like you said, might not have the guys right now, but everywhere he's been, he was successful. At Marshall, had top 10, defenses in a ton of different categories. Last year with, which I think is a little bit of a better defense, he was, I think top 25 in a lot of categories. I think top 10 in rushing defense. Before that, debacle versus Rutgers. But I think just give Coach Guidry those guys, and you're going to see this defense can look like it did last year, but even better. But I just want to remind people that last year everybody was calling for Shannon Dawson's head, but now guys into the offense and now number one offense in the country, all things like that. Not saying it's magic going to happen for the defense, but I just calm down with let's get rid of Guidry. We've seen that this defense does not have any depth in a lot of positions, so just calm down with that. I think it'd be very, very dumb to let him go. And that's just my opinion.
Hey, you remember when I said it was the Jimmys and Joes? It's the Cam and Joes. It's the Cams and Joes.
Yeah. I got news for you. If the offense didn't have Cam, I'm not sure that people wouldn't be jumping all over Shannon Dawson too. But I don't look at Lance Guidry as running his defense this year. It doesn't look right to me. I mean, he's a guy that is all about pressure and getting after things, and I don't see a lot of pressure and I don't see a lot of getting after things. And I think that's because they don't have confidence that they can hold up on the back end if he does run his schemes. And they're not going to discuss this publicly or make excuses or anything like that. But I don't think that Lance Guidry has the personnel to do what he knows and does. So he's like a fish out of water a little bit in scheming with this group. And opponents are throwing a lot at them on game day. They're having to make adjustments. And for whatever reason, and I'm not going to throw, individuals under the bus or whatever, but like the adjustments aren't being made as efficiently as you would like for them to be made. So communication has been the theme of this open week. They've been working really hard at it. Saturday, we start to see whether that pays dividends. Got another tough topic here, guys.
All right, here we go. Let's see what else. How
about the Miami JV team out at SMU balling out a little bit this year? Brashard Smith, a 1,000-yard rusher. If Brashard Smith were on this team right now, he is at best the number 3 running back, might even be the number 4 running back. He goes to SMU in the transfer portal. He is a 1,000-yard rusher at SMU. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Asi.
I think it's a system that fits him perfectly. And like you mentioned, Mario's not a finesse guy. Mario doesn't want these, scat backs. He wants these Damian Martinez. He wants these Mark Fletcher type of guys. And unfortunately, Brashard Smith, he was playing wide receiver his whole time, at Miami. And we had this argument, I think, like 6 or 7 times last year on CaneSport Live. It's like, who was Brashard Smith going to take reps from on that offense last year? Who? He was the number 3 receiver behind, a few guys. He wasn't a running back at the time. Obviously, we saw what he could do, in the kick return game. He had that big run, I think, versus Clemson, the 80-yard touchdown run or whoever it was against. But I think him going to SMU was the best thing he could have done for his career. He got with Rhett Lashley, who's known for, having these type of gadget guys who can make plays out wide, can play running back, and he's thriving there. So I've been seeing a lot of this, man, we should have never let Brashard Smith go. If you really break things down, who is Brashard Smith going to take reps from, and where will he play on this Miami team? It's like, I don't know. That's the one thing that just kind of grinds my gears. It's like, congratulations to the kid. He's doing great at SMU, but just what is he going to do in this offense right now?
Is Christopher Johnson next?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say, too. We probably might see – now, obviously, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we might see the same thing with Christopher Johnson. He goes somewhere else, that offense that suits him a little bit more than he blows up. We're going to have the same conversations last year, but who's he going to take reps from right now?
And you think about there's a Keyshawn.
Mm-hmm.
Where is he playing? Is he taking rests from Horton, or is he taking rests from Sam, or is he taking rests from number 3? I mean,
he's number 4 or 5 on this team.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. They're in a great offense that suits them, and when I watch them, man, I just shake my head and go, dang, But I also know that if they would have stayed here, would they have been the same player? I don't know. And that's up for argument, and I think that was a really good question. They got some players. I mean, it is our I like to call it our JV team. So we're gonna see how this. But let's stay on Wake Forest now. Let's stay on Wake Forest. Next question, Gary.
Billy DeLulu, yeah. Seeing a lot of teams going for it on 4th down, Lamar. Coaches, and I'm going to start this off by saying there's 2 things I hate. I hate prevent defense at the end of games, and I hate those goddamn analytics. And I was watching, I can't remember what game it was the other day. I'm watching this guy behind the head coach. It was like he had the entire Britannica encyclopedia. Like he was carrying these piles of paper. He's the analytics guy, and it was funny. There was John Gruden actually. I don't know if you've seen this thing he's doing with Barstool Sports, where he clowns around during I think it's Monday Night Football or whatever. They have a show, and there was an analytic disaster in one of those games, and Gruden was joking like, I used to have an analytic guy, and he'd say, go for it, Coach Gruden, go for it. And then of course they wouldn't get the 4th down play, and he'd be like, get the hell out of here, But anyway, LT, let's start with you, LT. Like, have analytics are they playing too big of a role in football?
I think so. I mean, I think it's kind of started off with that movie, that baseball movie. First time I kind of heard of analytics, but it's I get it, but I don't get it because it's all the field thing. You don't go for a 4th down if you ain't getting no yards. Nothing's kicking for you on offense. I know analytics might say it, but hell, if you don't feel comfortable, what happens to feel? The feel of the head coach, because remember, the analytics guy, when you fail, his name ain't being printed, and he ain't on the hot seat. Who's on the hot seat is the head coach.
Yeah.
I if I was a head coach, I would listen, but obviously I'm gonna make my decision because it's my livelihood that's on the line. And I'm just not an analytics guy. I mean, hell, if I feel like I can't get it, I ain't going for it. If I feel like I can, I'm going for it. I didn't see an analytics guy with Petrino. It was all about what he wanted to do, and so I don't know. I'm just not an analyst. What about you? I see you.
I think it's hilarious.
You going with the numbers?
On every 4th down on like ESPN broadcast, you see analytics says go for it. It's like, what does ESPN have to do with this game in this situation?
You're always supposed to go for it. It's unbelievable.
Like everything 4th and 6 and above, analytics say go for it. What the hell are you talking about? And then versus Oregon Wisconsin game, I'm gonna mention that one again. It was like a 4th and 4 or 4th and 3, and then they bring out the field goal team and they run a field goal power with the kicker. I'm like, if if you're gonna go and leave your offense out there, it's just like
They had a chance to go up by 6 if they kicked the field goal, and they ran a fake field goal.
yeah, it just
Trying to get up by 10, and like a Wisconsin team that has a horrible offense.
it doesn't
Like
make sense.
they would have put them in a position where they had to go the length of the field and score a touchdown to win. I mean, I don't know, man. We saw it affect the Georgia Tech game. Mario at least is consistent. He believes in being aggressive, and he goes for it and goes for it and goes for it and goes for it. But those analytics aren't showing 100%. And that one day, they really were kind of certainly 0 for 2 in a 5-point ball game. And that's the difference right now between, I mean, there were a lot of other things too, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But that's the difference right now between being undefeated and playing for an undefeated season and now having your back up against the wall where you can't screw up again. And I don't know, man. I hate them. Get rid of them.
I'm not an analytics guy. Anybody on the comments, you want to say, let us know if you're an analytics guy, because I'm not. I'm a field guy.
I hate them, and people tell me I'm old. I'm a traditionalist. Okay, I'll be a traditionalist.
Hey man, when I go home at night, I don't go in there trying to play the odds. I'm going on field. I'm going straight up to my wife, and let's go. You know what I mean? That's how we got them kids. Yeah.
Hey, and I'll tell you something else. You better have some feel when you go on the road too, because you better value points when you go on the road. Those are going to be close games, man. They're going to be good. And if you hit them the right way, they might be the difference in the game in your favor. But if you're leaving points on that field, you're going to wish you probably had them in the fourth quarter. Usually. All right, here's a good. Billy's got another question for you, LT. Scheming something different when you play teams that are better than you, here, at least on paper. And Georgia Tech is a perfect example. They know Miami is better than them on paper. So they're looking for wrinkles, especially when they have an open week before the game, that they can bring into the stadium and screw Miami up. And in the Georgia Tech game, it worked. The concept of coaches scheming things completely different.
Yeah, obviously coaching against Clemson at that time, Clemson was really good in the ACC. We did some different stuff. I mean, we changed it up a little bit just for that team, and it gave them problems. So when you're playing a better team, I mean, I've also seen it backfire at Kentucky, playing against Alabama at Alabama. None of that crap worked. None of it. So, it's just you're trying to give your team the best game plan to be successful against a better team. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the game, if you're allowed to stay in it for a quarter or 2 quarters, and you get to a quarter, third quarter, it kind of tells the whole ball game for you. And if you're feeling that confidence, those guys are feeling confidence, and you're calling all the right good plays to keep that confidence going, you got a chance. But if they go in at halftime and they realize that, all right, man, we're done playing around, we're a better team than them, it don't matter what they do out there, we're going to crush them, that happens. And so it is that's a good question, though. Yes, you change for a team that's better than you. You got to do something different, because obviously they're definitely going to go on what they've seen, and they have the better athletes and they have the better players. So if you change it up, when they get out there and they don't know what's going on, you have yourself a fighting chance until they wake up. Good question.
Norris Murray wants to talk about the linebackers. Kiko hasn't had a great year. Wesley kind of comes and goes. Popo Aguirre's been hurt. Chase Smith I thought had a good game, and I thought Alderman had a good game.
40, who was 40? Who 41. Had a knee brace on? 41. Okay.
41, but he's playing better these days. But it hasn't been great. Let's be honest. Not much you can do. I see. Why don't you take this? Not much you can do at this point of the season.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Popo being banged up, Kiko's play being up and down, Wesley's play being up and down. at this point, it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, they've thrown out, Bobby Pruitt. He's made some plays, but he's a true freshman. They've thrown out Bobby Washington. He's made some plays, but Coach Judy said he got a little bit banged up during that game. So, I mean, at this point, like Coach Judy said, it is what it is. What are you going to do with that group? And, I feel like versus Wake Forest, that slow mesh that me and T were talking about, that's going to be something very interesting to watch to see how they respond and handle that this weekend. But, I mean, we'll see, if they can right their wrongs, these next 2 weeks, because their communication has been very off. We've seen it with guys just throwing their hands up, but they're not knowing what to do. But we'll see if that bye week kind of helped them out in any sort of way. Yeah,
we haven't talked about that mesh offense that Wake Forest is going to throw out this.
Yeah, I was just about to say, for the viewers that don't know, what you're going to see, they're going to ride. It's going to be what's the word I'm looking for? It's crazy to see what they do. They're going to hold that ball. The quarterback is, him and the back are standing there, and he's riding the back, and he looks downfield, and then he decides whether he's going to give it to him or throw it. Now, what I saw North Carolina do against Wake Forest is they blew up the mesh. They knocked the guys back, the center, the guard. They knocked him back into the mesh. There was nowhere he had to try to throw it, and because he was being knocked backwards, he was off balance throwing the football a lot. So there are ways to stop this thing. You just have to commit to it, but at the same time, they got a pretty damn good running back. Number one, he's shifty. He's pretty damn good. He's not overly fast, but he's very shifty, and he's a good player. So, I think during these 2 weeks they probably have practiced that mesh stuff. But again, this is what happens. You think Wake Forest is going to do it? They're going to probably do something else because they know that they just saw another team have success blowing it up. So look for Wake Forest to do some crazy stuff. What they got to lose?
And they're going to challenge the
top 10 teams. Yes.
The linebackers are going to be under the gun. All right, so somebody asked me the other day.
Linebackers in coverage.
Edward McAdams here brings up the subject about by the 10th week, shouldn't they be playing solid right now? And I'm sure this is driving Mario a little crazy because if I think about this season, what game did we look the best this season? Just an absolute rock solid performance, all sides of the ball. Week 1, right?
Week 1,
Gainesville, right? I see.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar, that has to be driving at least the head coach, if not the whole staff, out of their minds because you're supposed to improve as the year goes forward. Guys are supposed to develop as the year goes forward. I feel pretty confident saying that that's not happening to Mario Cristobal's satisfaction. I think that's fair.
I mean, you go out there the first week and you play well. Guys are running around making plays, and some of those guys have disappeared, man. I'm reading the comments and they're asking about one guy says, "Where's our defensive line?" That was supposed to be the strength of the team. Well, you know what? We got Bain out there, and that guy's out there. They're going to double team him. They're going to try to slide protection to him. He's our best defensive lineman. And Vero came about for a while. He was playing well. Then we had number 9 out there. The first couple games of the year, he was incredible. You lose Austin. You lose a secondary guy. You lose a linebacker. I mean, there are losses on that defense that were very important. Some of the guys that are playing right now are supposed to have been depth guys that can help you on special teams. See, that's what people don't realize. Those guys that are having to play now, they should be on special teams, helping us on special teams. So now you got to dig even deeper and find special teams guys. So everybody, it's a fall down effect. Now the special team coach is struggling, or he's trying to figure out how and who to play, because you don't want your starters out there the majority of the time. I mean, it's good to have starters on special teams, but when you don't have a lot of depth, you can't take any chances in getting these guys injured.
So Panhandle
here's a comment right here. What happened?
Well, Florida has improved a lot since that that game. I don't know that the game is that much different if Miami plays at the same level it played that day, but it does seem like we are very far removed from that game. When you look at all the close calls that we've had in the ACC schedule, I mean, very fortunate to just have one ACC loss. And, I don't think anybody can dispute that. But it just goes along the lines of what we were just what we were just talking about.
So Pinellas Kane said we had problems in week 1. Don't forget about the contain and gave up 50-yard touchdown to an injured running back. Well, I mean, hell, I saw that same run against LSU down the left side. So,
with a different running back.
So I don't know. They make money too, man. They scheming too, dog. They don't think the other team coaches ain't good. They're trying to figure it out too. Let's see what here. Why just came falling out? Yeah.
She said she's astutely noting that the fans have been pretty hard.
Yeah,
I think recently on the team and the players and the coaches. What do you think about that, LT?
Well, I'm just very happy, Gary, that we didn't have social media back then for obvious reasons. Obviously, I didn't want to know my business, but this type of stuff, I mean, maybe they were, Gary, maybe they were on us, but we didn't know. We didn't care. First of all, we didn't care. But today's fans,
well, but they have platforms that they didn't have back when you played.
Voice their opinions, and a lot of times, half of them don't even know what they're talking about. They're getting their information from the wrong sources. They're making up their own information. I mean, that's why I don't like, me personally, I don't like sitting in the stands around people and hearing their opinions. That's just me. I don't care if it's a high school game, my daughter's flag football game. I just don't like being around people because half the time they don't know what the heck they're talking about. And so in order for me not to get frustrated or being drawn into the conversation, I just stay away. And
you spend half your time at the damn gymnastics gym. Who are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Well, no, my daughter plays flag football too, man. She's the best flag puller out there, boy. They can't run on her side. She got speed, she got length, she's pulling flags, she's good at it. She's real good at it. And the Tyreek Hill flag football, that's now Dolphins flag football because Tyreek Hill never showed up. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I just don't like to hear sometimes the talk. And obviously today's age, they can get on these social media platforms and they can talk all the stuff they want to talk. And it's to hear them crash the players a lot. You're like, hey man, are you trying to be a fan or are you trying to be a hater? Which one are you? And I think half of them, it's for clicks and likes. Half the stuff they say sometimes just to get people going. And it's just, I'm very glad that we didn't have social media back then, Gary. I might not be sitting here for one.
And by the way, the only reason you don't get it at the gymnastics gym is because there's nobody watching all those little kids flipping around that has any clue what they're watching, so they can't pass judgment.
I tell you this now. My wife, she is like the be all know all because she did gymnastics in college. So all the other moms crowd around her and ask her for her opinion on stuff like that. So I get it because I can't say anything because I didn't go to school for that. I didn't do gymnastics. So that's your business. But in football, I don't want to be around people that don't know the game. So I'm not going to anybody's house to watch the game because I don't want to be describing the game the whole damn time. I want to watch the game in peace. That's why I'm on the sideline. I want to go right there.
All right, man. Jeff Lynn, ELO, he wants to know what the hell's wrong with the pass rush. And I mean, Barron's disappeared. I can't begin to explain what's happened with that guy. He looked good in Gainesville. We've talked about Gainesville. He looked very good in Gainesville. He did okay in Louisville. He did well against FAMU, but that's 3 games out of 10 that they've played so far. I don't know where he's been the other 7. Bain to me is too heavy to be an end. He's not as effective out on the outside as he was a year ago. Still has some moments. Very good player.
Yeah,
but he's just not as effective. Mesidor is having to play inside way too much, and he's better off outside. I would flip-flop those two, me personally, if I were Guidry and the D-line coaches. Simeon Barrow has done a decent job, but he's a defensive tackle. He's not going to have big sack numbers or whatever. What do you think, LT?
You see what Jay Cruz just put?
Still in check.
Stealing a check. Yeah, he might be.
Hey, man. It is what it is, man.
When was the last time Miami had a quarterback sack? I can't remember a great sack in the last. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, this is a program where the leading sack guy has been in double digits many times.
Mm-hmm.
It won't happen this year.
I see what you think, man. I mean, I got my own opinion, but you go ahead and tell yours first.
I think it's just inconsistent play, honestly, and then sprinkle a little bit of injuries here and there, and then that's what you have. It. I mean, when I was doing my Wake Forest previews and all that good stuff, I mean, he said Miami's D-line is up there with Clemson and Ole Miss as the best in the country. So other people think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but obviously, like we just mentioned, fans are a lot more critical of their team, than anybody else. But like I said, I think it's a mixture of guys kind of just being inconsistent and injuries and all that good stuff. But I do think they have the potential to really fire those cannons and get after it. But you just gotta stay healthy. You gotta stay on the field, and we'll see what happens these next 2 games. I feel like they haven't played football in forever, so that's why we're thinking, hey, when's the last time we got a QB sack? Georgia Tech threw the ball like 6 times, and we didn't see anything there. But hopefully they take down Mr. Bachmeier, the quarterback for Wake Forest. But let's see if these guys can.
I kind of don't want that second guy to come in. He seemed like a better passer. Bachmeier didn't. When he came in the game against North Carolina, he threw it around a little bit. The guy when Bachmeier got hurt, so I'd rather Bachmeier just stay on in there, and we kind of know what we're getting. That's just my opinion.
Norris Murray, I'm looking at his comment. I mean, they are a little undersized now, other than Barron.
Yeah.
Barrow is a smaller defensive tackle. He's wide, he's strong, but he's still smaller. Mesidor is an end playing tackle. Bain is a tackle playing end, but is not a big guy. I mean, they are a little undersized. There's some truth to that. William Crowfield.
I know for Hurricane said we got 27 sacks, and they should have had 40 plus. That's what he said.
Yeah,
I didn't even know we had 27. All pretty early.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known we had 27 either. I'd have to go look that up. But so William Croft says a little bit more downhill action from the D-line, a little more Manny style attacking. I think he's got a point, guys. I noted that Lance Guidry is not playing his style of defense so far this year. I really believe that. I'd like to see Lance Guidry going back to being Lance Guidry. Maybe they're overthinking it a little bit, I mean, they're getting beat in the secondary anyway. You might as well go get the quarterback before he can throw some of those completions to wide open guys to the middle of the field, like what we saw in the big money downs against Georgia Tech. Maybe that's a little bit of an answer. Maybe Lance Guidry can go back to being a little bit more Lance Guidry-ish and cause some chaos, some negative plays. What do you guys think? Go ahead, IC.
I was gonna say this when we were talking about Lance Guidry earlier. I remember when he came in, he always said his defense is safety driven, and I feel like safety play isn't up to par. I feel like he's just not. I mean, I don't know if he's not confident enough, but I just feel like if your defense is safety driven and you don't have the guys back there that can do what the previous guys that you had, I feel like that kind of throws everything off whack. And when you mentioned Gary, him being aggressive, I vividly remember last year versus North Carolina when they had Cam blitz up the A gap right, through the center and the guard, and he ran that multiple times. I absolutely love that blitz. I haven't seen it once this year. just I don't know, just little things like that. His defense is supposed to be safety, safety, safety. He's a safety guy, and I just don't think he has the guys where he can trust to run that system this year.
Yeah, it's obvious. I mean, that's totally obvious. But maybe he just needs to say screw that and try it a little bit the other way and see what happens. You know, maybe a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more blitzing. Maybe that pays dividends. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
You know, let me see here. If there's anything else, I think. Pinellas wants to know about Josh Horton. He's been on the injured list. He hasn't been healthy since
Austin,
he got here.
Austin, we have missed Austin, so hopefully he gets back. Maybe next week. You know, maybe this week. Who knows? But I think having all the, can I say bullets now? You know, you don't want to say things that get you in trouble. Having all those guys gives you more depth, and the rotation is better. And I think, like you said, coming into this season, I thought the safety play would be similar, but it has not been. It's been more protecting back there, and not, you know, even against Florida, it wasn't really, they didn't need to do too much. So it's been a different defense for Lance, like you said.
William Croft talks about trusting in the safeties, and I think I think he hit it spot on. I mean, it's obvious. He's not coaching Lance Guidry defense. But not coaching Lance Guidry defense has not worked out so great. So maybe he needs to go back to being Lance Guidry. What do you think, I see?
I mean, yeah, you gotta roll the dice, but I don't know.
Roll the dice, man. Let's go.
How much you want to roll it with these last two games being make or break. So we shall see.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why we don't.
Tough one, dog. That's a tough one. Yeah,
it is a tough one. It's easy for us to sit here on the couch, so to speak.
Like
$1 million.
It's like the one song.
None of us making $1 million right now.
Nope, definitely not.
That's a
tough. Right,
that's a real tough one.
Yeah, no doubt. Parting thoughts before we let you go here.
That slow mesh, I'm having nightmares about it up until Saturday, until I see how those guys play. But honestly, I want to see these. I know Wake Forest is going to come out. I know they're going to put in the Claymore guy out wide, and they're going to flip formations. I just want to see if this team is actually, you know, put it in that work to kind of, you know, understand what's going wrong with the alignment and assignment, all that good stuff. It's easy to talk a big game, but, you know, I want to see them actually come out and do it. And I just hope this offense kind of gets, you know, the wheels rolling, had the lowest scoring output this year. Said third down was critical, fourth down was critical. Just get back to, you know, what you used to doing in the defense, and just find your foot in these last few games of the year. That's what I'm hoping to see versus Wake Forest.
All right, I see. Well, we obviously thank you for being part of the show.
Yep.
And we will.
Saturday, I see.
Yes, sir. See you guys. Thank you.
All right, man. All right, LT. Everything I hear, we're going to skip word association today. Everything I hear is they are getting after it in practice.
Yeah.
They are working hard. They have attacked some of their problems. They've worked hard on the communication. Cam Ward's keeping the offense very focused. He is smart, and I can assure you, I don't know if everybody knows. He's not happy at what's happened with his Heisman campaign over the last week or so. And I personally think they're going to come out on Saturday and beat the living daylights out of Wake Forest. I think Cam Ward's going to try to put 500 up. I don't think the Wake Forest defense is going to be able to stop him. And I'm hoping that with 2 weeks to get ready, that the defense has that mesh offense figured out, and that we're not getting burned with the pop passes over the linebackers. So it'll be interesting, BLT. But that's my thought. Give us yours.
I want a game. I want to win. First of all, I want us to win, and I want to see that this week, this off season has we put that time in, and like you said, hopefully those guys are studying. I want to see us beat them. I mean, the point spread is 24 points. That's a lot. I would like to get to that, and I would like to get to that early. But of course, the other team, their head coach Mario has a lot of respect for him, and he's done a good job. He's done a really good job there at Wake Forest. He's probably had other job offers, but he stayed the course. He's developed that program. They've had some years where they've won 7, 8, maybe 9 games, maybe more than that. And they've always been able to, especially with him being a coach, compete. So, this off week, we will see just how much these kids are taught and how much they retain. Because, again, I really do believe the blueprint was developed or shown to everybody else by Duke with the movement and the shifting and the motions. And they want to see if you can communicate, if you can talk, if you know how to make the proper checks. These are all things that go into the chess game of coaching. So we'll see what our defensive guys have done. And, on the offensive side, I think that Wake Forest's secondary is not probably one of the best secondaries we face. So with that being said, I'm hoping that we can throw the ball around the yard a little bit, but I also want to see a run game. I want to see a run game. I know. See, this is a bad deal as far as we want to see the numbers put up by Cam, but we also want to establish this run game because, like I said, early in the season, this run game is what's going to get us over the top of getting to where we need to go. If you don't have a run game and you're just sitting back there, you're going to go against some teams that have good pass rushers and a good secondary. And not saying that we don't have great receivers or we don't have a good offensive line. It's just that the run game takes the pressure off the quarterback. Now he doesn't have to, every throw is not a game-winning throw or a Heisman moment. It's just moving the ball because the defense saying, well, we're going to stop this run and we're going to step up, and you're able to find some voids in the secondary. So I'm excited. It's been 2 weeks. It seems like it's been last weekend was a no pressure Saturday. I don't want my heart to be vibrating as much as it has been this whole season. Let's have a great game, Mario. Let's get these guys going. Everybody looked up to beat today. They look like they were focused, and let's go beat the Deacons. Let's go beat them. Let's go beat them down and slap Tim Duncan. You know what I'm saying? Let's beat them.
All right, LT. Well, we got to thank Kenny Holmes for joining us earlier in the show. Got to thank CaneSwear for being our sponsor this entire season. Again, if you're in town and you're going to the game, they're opening at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. Head on over, get yourself some Canes gear, maybe do a little early holiday shopping. Oh, yep, we got to thank La Spada Subs for feeding LT. Best subs in town. I don't know if they'll be open at 8 o'clock, so I'm not going to tell you to get your tailgate food from La Spadas on Saturday. I would almost bet they won't be there at 8 o'clock. But typically, La Spadas, best subs certainly in Broward County. I haven't been to every sub shop in Dade County, but I've been to La Spadas many times, and they have great subs at La Spadas, so check them out. But CaneSwear, if you can't get to the store, CaneSwear.com. They have everything you could possibly want as a Hurricane fan with the U logo on it. And then, of course, we thank all of you guys for watching tonight. LT, great show. I will see you at the stadium on Saturday. I am telling you, the Canes are going to kick the crap out of Wake Forest. I can feel it. Hope I'm right. Otherwise, I'm going to be taking some crap here next week.
I hope you're right too, Gary. So, hey, Canes fan, we love you. Thank you so much for watching tonight, and go Canes, baby.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.